I don't know if you want to call this a part two of the original Doctor Strange 2 movie review that I came out with a couple of days ago, or if you want to call this an addendum to that review or whatever. But I've had more time to kind of sit on my thoughts about this and mull over what I think about the movie. I said in that original review that I wasn't really sure if I was ready to make a review for Doctor Strange 2 because of my feelings being so mixed on the film. But after having, a couple of more days to really think about it and stuff, I thought, you know what? I don't think I'm done giving my thoughts on that movie. I think I need to make a follow-up video, to that review. I think that might be what I call this, the Doctor Strange 2 movie review follow-up or something like that. But just thinking it over more and more, I really feel like I do have more thoughts on this film and I need to get them out, and to really kind of clarify my thoughts on it and to, let it be known like where I'm at on this movie at this point. And of course, obviously this video is going to contain spoilers for Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. So if you haven't seen the film yet and you plan on seeing the movie, you might want to, check out this video, go see the film, and then come back later because we are going to be diving into full-on spoilers here. And again, I want to go ahead and preface, you need to go see the original review I did on Doctor Strange 2 before seeing this movie, because it's going to tie in heavily to that. So, of course, the link to that will be down in the description box below. After thinking it over, originally I was very mixed on the film. I called it a mess. I thought it was very messy when you look at the overall picture of it. There was moments that I like in the movie, moments that I didn't like in the movie. And here we are, at the end of the movie and, coming out of the theater, I'm like, that's kind of messy. When you put it all together, it's kind of messy. So here I am now, having had a couple more days to really think it over. And the more I think about this film, the more frustrated I actually get about this movie. The more I really start to realize some of the bigger flaws in the film, and some of the things that really don't work. And it really comes down to the writing, and it comes down to the script. I don't think it has anything to do with the actors. I think the actors were really trying their best with this movie. But I think the writing and the script is really where the problem with this film comes in, because it is just a big mess. It really is. It has its moments, but overall it's a big mess. So looking at this film, there's a number of things that I started to really think about that really don't make a hell of a lot of sense, to be honest with you. Looking at, I don't even know where to begin. I really don't. I really don't know where to begin. I think I'm going to go ahead and start off with the whole issue with Wanda. I talked about in the original review, and I still hold to this, that I thought Wanda was actually the best part of this movie, but the problem with Wanda is that this is supposed to be a Doctor Strange movie, and Wanda ends up stealing the spotlight from Doctor Strange. Now, given she is the main villain of the film, so you do expect her to play a big role and to have a big presence in the movie, but at the same time, Doctor Strange is supposed to have an even bigger presence because he's the main freaking character. He's the main character of the movie. So he's supposed to, be numero uno on that list of, relevant characters in his own damn movie, and he's not. It's Wanda. And again, I like Wanda in this film. I like pretty much almost everything about Wanda in this film. But, this does feel more like a series finale of WandaVision than it does a Doctor Strange sequel. I mean, when you look at the original, and I went back after making that review of Doctor Strange 2, and I rewatched the original Doctor Strange movie again, and then, I compared it to what I saw in Doctor Strange 2, and when you put them side by side, if you go from watching Doctor Strange 1 to watching Doctor Strange 2, you realize that this does not feel like a sequel to that movie. It really does not. This feels like a series finale of WandaVision. The more I think about it, the whole Mordo plotline being, just not even brought up in this film, which actually, I take that back. It is brought up, but it doesn't make any damn sense, because, when Doctor Strange meets the alternate universe version of Mordo that became Sorcerer Supreme, he's talking about like, oh, this guy hates me, this guy can't stand me, and I'm like, Did I miss something here? Because yes, Mordo's off there. Mordo did leave the Masters of the Mystic Arts. He did, bail on him and stuff, turned his back on him. And we do know that, he was starting this crusade against sorcerers, because he felt that they had too much power and they were disrupting the natural order of the world. So, but as far as where does this whole thing come from that, he hates Doctor Strange? They just don't agree on things. At this point, was it ever made clear that and maybe I'm forgetting something. Maybe you guys can correct me down in the comments section below, because there's a shit ton of Marvel films out there. And maybe I'm just forgetting something. Maybe I'm forgetting a reference for one of them. Maybe it was in Infinity War or Endgame or something. I don't know. But did these two actually ever come into conflict after the Doctor Strange movie? Because I don't remember that. I don't remember them actually coming into conflict after that. The Doctor Strange film set up that Mordo would be the main villain of the next film, and that he would be, fighting Doctor Strange. But I don't remember it actually being picked up in any of the films between the original Doctor Strange and this movie. But he acts like, that they've had this big fight or something, and it almost feels like there was supposed to be another Doctor Strange film before this one that Marvel just never made. It seems to be referencing some kind of plot line with Doctor Strange and Mordo that was supposed to be the main conflict of a Doctor Strange sequel before this one, and Marvel just never made that film, but we're supposed to expect that something like that happened. That was a weird moment. And there's a lot of disconnect here between the original Doctor Strange film and Doctor Strange 2. And I'm just sitting here like, there's not enough connective tissue here. Like, I can't go from watching the original Doctor Strange movie to watching this one and being like, yeah, this is a sequel to that movie, because it's too disconnected. There's not enough connective tissue there between the two films. And I don't feel like that with, a lot of the other sequels in the MCU, from Thor to Thor the Dark World to, Thor Ragnarok, it all feels connected. You go from Iron Man 1 to Iron Man 2 to Iron Man 3, it all feels connected, regardless of your thoughts on those sequels. They at least felt like sequels to those original films that they were sequels to. This movie does not feel like that. Again, it feels like that Doctor Strange was just used as a catalyst to resolve Wanda's story. And again, I like Wanda in this movie. I like her motivation. And that's something else, that I've heard people critiquing about that, I don't necessarily agree with. It's a criticism that I'm not really all that much in agreement with. That, Wanda, doing all this stuff for kids that didn't really exist, that she conjured for magic and stuff. You have to understand that from Wanda's point of view, all that was real. She was happy in that false reality. And from her point of view, they were real. And, as we see in other universes, those kids actually do exist. Now, this is something I do think the film should have clarified more. This honestly was an assumption on my part. Maybe it's not true, but this is what I assumed was going on, is that in other universes, those kids did exist. Now, whether or not they were created biologically, through the good old-fashioned natural means, or whether they were created by magic in those other universes, and Wanda somehow figured out a way to make them real, and to sustain their existence. I don't know, but I assume that those kids were real in the other universes, and that it is in our own mainline MCU universe where the kids were not real and never became real. And that's part of what drove Wanda crazy. Now, that is an assumption on my part, and I do think the film probably should have clarified that, if that is actually the case or not, because it really does not clarify whether these kids are still made by magic in the other universes, or whether they have come to actually exist fully and completely. I'm not sure. The film never explains that, but I assume that's what was going on, because, she makes the whole thing. There's a whole thing in the film about, when you dream, sometimes when you dream, you're actually peering into an alternate version of yourself in an alternate universe. And so I thought, Wanda came to realize that her kids were actually real. They actually existed in another universe. That's just was my assumption, but the movie I do think probably should have clarified that, if that actually was the case. So I can see people, coming away with, criticizing that, but, And yeah, Wanda's motivation here. I mean, again, she's she's wanting to have this family, and that's a very basic, relatable, natural desire. Everybody wants to have family. Everybody wants to, have a place to belong, have a home, and Wanda doesn't have that, and she's desperate to get that. Now, does it justify all the stuff she does in the film to get that? Hell no, it doesn't justify all that stuff. The stuff that Wanda does in this film is messed up. I'm not denying that. I'm not denying that. I all I'm saying is that her motivation is relatable. The stuff she does is not justified at all. Wanting to kill a child in order to reunite with her own children, that's not right. She should have found some other way. She should have found some other way. Now, of course, she does have the whole Darkhold corruption and everything going on. Fair enough. But she should have found another way to get to have her family, to have her kids. So, and the more I think about it, the more, I think that Wanda's story in this movie, the way it ended with her sacrificing herself to, destroy the same corruption that brought her to this point, to destroy the original Darkhold and then destroy all, in turn destroying all the copies of the Darkhold in every other universe. I think this was the only way that Wanda's story could end. Because remember, she killed all those people at Kamar Taj. She killed, the Illuminati. She killed a lot of people in this movie. She did a lot of really messed up stuff in this movie. So her sacrificing herself to destroy the Darkhold across all the universes, I think that was the only way the story could end. Because there's no way that, she could come back from that. You got all these people that are dead. Like Reed Richards in the alternate universe. He's dead now. So, and he confirms that he had a kid in that universe. So now that kid's going to grow up without a dad. And that's messed up. And she can't walk that back. She can't take that back. So really the only way that she does find any sort of redemption, and the only way that she can really, the only way her story can really end in this movie is by her sacrificing herself to try and destroy the Darkhold. So the way that her story ends in this movie makes a lot of sense. And I think it's really the only way that it could have ended for Wanda. Because there's no way she could come back from that. There's no way that she can just be like, oh, I'm good now, so I'm going to go back to being a hero. Nah, like, you killed people. Like, you took a father away from his child, and, you killed all those people at Karmatage. No, like, you don't get to walk back from that. You don't get to go on pretending like everything's normal. Like, you gotta die, So, I mean, it's kind of a Darth Vader situation, I guess you could say. Vader did redeem himself in the end, but he had to redeem himself through death, and there is no way that he could have, gone on living after that, as, a free man. He had to pay for his mistakes. So, death was really like the only satisfying conclusion to that story. Same thing goes for Wanda here. I think sacrificing herself, pulling a Darth Vader is really, the only way that could have ended. But again, she does take a lot of the spotlight away from Strange, and that's a problem, because again, this does not feel like a Doctor Strange movie. It feels like the series finale of WandaVision, and I still hold this. I've actually talked to a couple of people that hadn't watched WandaVision before seeing this film, and they said it didn't bother them as much as I thought it would bother people like that haven't seen WandaVision and then go see this film. I thought that they would be, very confused, trying to figure out what's going on. But they have admitted, though, that they probably would have gotten more out of the film had they seen WandaVision. And, again, we're kind of early in the whole Disney Plus Marvel streaming shows venture. We have What If, we have Hawkeye, we have, WandaVision, we have Loki. So we're kind of early on in that whole, experiment that Disney's trying to do with the Disney Plus streaming shows. So it may not be as big of a problem for people going into this movie, but I think this could be a foreshadowing of problems later on. If we start getting more Disney Plus shows and they start connecting these movies with these Disney Plus shows more and more, that could lead to a lot of, convoluted plot threads, and, it may not make a lot of sense. Because right now, despite all the Marvel movies that are in the MCU, I think Disney has done a pretty, decent job of keeping everything pretty straightforward and easy to understand. But I don't think, I think when you start weaving in these Disney Plus shows, I think you're going to lead to a lot of convoluted plot threads that people aren't going to understand, and it's going to lead to a mess later on. And it could turn off a lot of casual fans, and I think that could spell doom for the MCU, because right now MCU Phase 4 is not doing all that good. Yes, there's been some standout movies like Spider-Man No Way Home is probably the best film in Phase 4 of the MCU so far. I would say absolutely, but Black Widow didn't do as good as Disney was hoping. Shang-Chi, I thought was alright, but it's not on the same level as some of the stuff that's come before. And then we get this film, which is just, a mess, a very, convoluted mess. And, I think if it almost feels like they're kind of directionless. They don't have a very good direction of where they're going with the MCU now that Endgame's over. And, there's been talk that maybe we're leading into the Secret Wars plot line. That could be a potentiality, but, I'm not sure. But right now, I kind of have a lot of hesitancy about Marvel Phase 4 and where the MCU is going. And it does worry me. It concerns me greatly what is going on here. It may be that this whole thing did peak with Infinity War and Endgame. But anyways, that being said, some other things that kind of, stood out from this movie is that, I talked about the Illuminati and how they kind of missed the ball, not bringing in, that universe's Wolverine, or, having an alternate universe Tony Stark on the Illuminati. Professor X could have called it Wolverine. You could have had alternate universe Tony Stark, and these would have been such hype moments, and they made the movie feel really restrained. But also, the Illuminati was not on screen long enough to really, savor what we were getting. They were kind of like here and then they were dead. It's kind of like a hi-bye type of situation. And I feel like they probably should have introduced the Illuminati earlier on in the film so we had more time with them. Like maybe they could all be working together and stuff, and then, like it would have built up more, got to know these characters more, these versions of these characters better, so that when they do ultimately meet their end at the hand of Wanda, it just leaves more of an impact. So I felt like they probably should have done more with the Illuminati. It was just kind of like, here's the Illuminati, and then the Illuminati is dead, just a few minutes later. And I don't know, it just felt like a missed opportunity. It felt really restrained. You're going into the multiverse, you could do so much more, and I don't know what they're holding back on here. Trying to think if there's really anything else I don't want. Oh yeah, America Chavez. The more I think about America Chavez, this really starts to piss me off more and more. So you had at the beginning of the film, she's talking about this alternate universe Doctor Strange she was with at the beginning of the film, wanting to kill her or wanting to take her powers. That's the thing. He was going to take her powers into himself, which would have resulted in her death. And I'm here thinking to myself, now wait a minute, if you steal America Chavez's powers, then isn't Wanda just gonna target you? Like, it doesn't really solve the problem. All you end up with is a dead little girl, because then, the powers still exist. Wanda can still get the power. She just has to go after this alternate universe Doctor Strange. So wouldn't it actually make more sense to just kill America Chavez so that the powers, die with her, rather than you take the powers? Again, stuff like that didn't really make a whole lot of sense. And then America Chavez herself, at the beginning, she's talking about how, this alternate Doctor Strange, she's like, oh, how could you betray me, trying to steal my powers, you were supposed to be my friend, you're so evil. And then she meets, the mainline Doctor Strange, and she's like, they're talking about how, like, every, single Stephen Strange across the multiverse, is like this, that they will always choose to do an evil as long as it contributes to the greater good. They'll do a lesser evil in order to contribute to the greater good. They care more about the greater good, and they're willing to do evil to ensure the greater good. And that makes Steven a bad guy, I guess. And they're, except for the mainline, Doctor Strange, he's like, oh, every Stephen Strange is like this. Every Stephen Strange, is this bad guy, except for, the mainline Doctor Strange. He's the only one that's different. I'm like, this kid has barely known this dude. Like, she just now met this dude. What is she talking about? Like, she doesn't know him well enough to say that. It's moments like that, and I'm just like, you know, that's where the writing, like, is really bad, is in moments like that. It's like, you just met him. How do you know what he's like? You know, he could be just as bad as the Doctor Strange you just met. And then what's more than that is that at the end of the film, she asked Doctor Strange, like the mainline Doctor Strange, to take her powers. So you criticize this other Doctor Strange for wanting to steal your powers and kill you. And now, here at the end of the film, you're begging the mainline Doctor Strange to do the same? That you criticize the other Doctor Strange for? It's dumb. Like, there's moments like that where the writing really collapses in on itself. And yeah, the more I thought about it, the more I realized that this movie is definitely leaning more into the bad category. Again, is it the worst Marvel film in the MCU? No, it's not. There's definitely, you know, worse films in there, but I think it is like the messiest film in the MCU. This is a big freaking mess, and the more I think about it, the more frustrated I get with this movie. You know, I hope this isn't a bad omen for the future of the MCU, but between this and you know, Thor, Love and Thunder, you know, the garbage trailer for that, you know, I have a bad feeling about the future of the MCU. But that being said, give me your thoughts on this down in the comments section below. You know, do you think, you know, I'm talking out of my ass here, did you guys really enjoy the film, or did you think it was kind of a mess like I did? And, you know, I thought it could be a lot better. You know, to give me your thoughts on this down in the comments section below. Like the video or dislike the video, depending on how you feel. Subscribe, click the bell for notifications. If you guys want to check out my video game channel, I just uploaded a video on the latest Gotham Knight information that we got on that channel. We got some new Red Hood and Nightwing gameplay, as well as some news on the release of Gotham Knights. If you want to hear my thoughts on that, I've got a video over on the video game channel right now talking about that. So the link to that channel will be down in the description box below. Check it out, subscribe there, click the bell for notifications there, to get updates on video games, news, and topics. But that being said, yeah, give me your thoughts on Doctor Strange 2 down below. Also follow me on Twitter. Yeah, my Twitter will be linked down below as well. But yeah, I thought the movie was a mess. Anyways, until next time, this is Jessica James signing out.